You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America. Joining us now, Tim Murtaugh, Communications Director, Trump-Pence 2020, live Miami. Tim, great to have you with us.
Great to be with you, John. Thanks again.
All right, Tim, so last night we've been breaking this down. Obviously, a lot of people believe, as I do, that the big winner last night overall, the president with the Communist Manifesto clown show that went on last night. I want to talk about tonight for a minute, Tim, and your take on it here live in Miami. Nobody laid a glove on Joe Biden. I kind of got that because he's not there. You don't want to hit somebody defenseless. I don't think that's going to happen tonight. What say you?
Yeah, probably not. Joe Biden is in a tough spot. You can see by what happened last night, where everyone is just running to the left as hard as they possibly can. They've dropped all pretense of trying to be moderates, and they're just running as hard as they can to the left, and that puts Joe Biden in a real tough spot. He's got some other of the tier one candidates on stage with him, Kamala Harris and Bernie Sanders, and Pete Buttigieg, and so there's going to be some of his close competitors who are going to be tempted to gang up on him for sure. And he's got to walk a real tightrope because, the big sell from the media on Joe Biden was that, he'll be the big moderate in the race. Well, there is no moderate lane in this Democrat primary. We've seen that over and over again. We saw it last night. We're going to see it again tonight. And so that puts Joe Biden in a real tough spot. He's got to go left because that's what the Democrat primary electorate is demanding. And so on the tightrope that he's on one side is the radical left of his party, and on the other side is a cliff, because there's no moderate lane. So we'll see what happens, but it's a real tough spot for Joe Biden to be in tonight.
Well, look, he's got nowhere to go because if you saw the debate last night, and obviously you did, we're both here in Miami, but what was fascinating to me is there were, I would say, three legitimate traditional liberal Democrats. You could call them moderates. I'll call them traditional liberals. And the kind of Hubert Humphrey, Walter Mondale, George McGovern text, all right? McGovern a little more left than the other two. But, your typical liberals that you've been accustomed to dealing with for 30, 40 years in politics. And that was Amy Klobuchar, John Delaney, who sounded actually reasonable. Actually, the guy got hissed and booed off the stage because he said he owned a business and hired people.
Yeah.
He got booed. I mean,
and
then I guess you would say the third one to a certain extent was Tim Ryan, who also got mocked and booed on the stage for saying that they had to go after working people. I mean, it was incredible last night. All three of them got booed off the stage. And I thought the most telling, and this is the third time I've said this today, Tim, I want to get your take. I thought the most telling piece of this debate was when Amy Klobuchar, the senator from Minnesota, an otherwise reasonable lady, right? Reasonable person, tied herself into a pretzel over open borders and letting anybody in without having it being a criminal offense. I mean, she couldn't even answer the question. She's so petrified of this left-wing whack job base that wants to erase the country and have some kind of an open border North America administrative state. And she could not even say, look, if you don't have a border, you don't have a country. They're afraid to say it. I don't know where Biden goes with this tomorrow or tonight.
Well, that's exactly it. There's a purity test being enforced by the radical element of the Democrat Party, and they're the ones who are in charge of the policy discussion this time around. There's no question of that. And so when the issue of immigration or borders come up, while these candidates may have certain thoughts in their heads, they know they don't dare speak them out loud. So they have to agree with the howling, radical chorus that's out there. And you've got to say, if somebody asks you if you're for open borders, you better believe you got to say yes, because otherwise, how can you survive in this climate? These are the same people. I know they tried to capitalize. We've all seen probably the picture of the father and his daughter who drowned trying to swim across the United States border that's been published over the last couple of days. And it's a heartbreaking photo. And anyone who sees it with any amount of compassion whatsoever has to be really seriously moved by that and understand what a tragedy some of these circumstances are. But the truth is that these same Democrats who were up on stage last night for months denied that there was even a crisis at the border. Then they moved on to claiming that, okay, maybe there's a crisis, but it's been manufactured, right? It's a fake crisis. And now that everyone is forced to acknowledge that, yes, indeed, there is an actual humanitarian crisis going on at the border and our system is overwhelmed, they still refuse to work with the president to help fix it. And so their answer to the whole thing is throw the doors wide open, let people just come on in violation of our laws, offer them amnesty, offer them taxpayer-funded health care for free to illegal immigrants. And all that does is just entice more people to come and try to cross the border illegally, and it's going to lead to even more of these tragic situations. I mean, it's just the absolutely backwards way to approach this problem. But the thing is, as you rightly point out, when they're on stage there and they're running for the Democrat nomination to run for president, they cannot say anything except what has now become accepted faith among radical Democrats, and that is no borders whatsoever. It's a free-for-all.
Yeah, no borders, which means no country. And you're right. I mean, this would be like you're having a crime epidemic in Chicago, and the Chicago mayor and the city council saying, okay, we're going to solve this because we're going to make everything legal. You can steal, you can loot, you can shoot, everything is fine. Every man for himself, it's all legal, and that solves it. I mean, it's an insane approach to look at this, but it is now.
Sure. I mean, I guess their approach is, look, if you want to solve crime, let's just not make anything illegal. Therefore, we'll have no crime rate.
Well, they're doing the same. They're doing the same thing with marijuana now. To solve the marijuana issue by just making it legal, and then they're going to make something else legal. But it's an insane way to go about it. Looking at this yesterday and looking at where this party is going, I tell you what, I had Rick Gorka on a couple minutes ago from the RNC. And we were chatting. Yeah,
good guy.
Nice young fella, by the way, Tim. Nice young fella.
Really
definitely
sharp, very sharp dresser.
Well, yes, and up and comer with the RNC. But we were talking about the fact that 4 months ago, Kirsten Gillibrand from New York had a shocking statement that if she were elected president, she would eliminate ICE. And like everybody was outraged. It was like a shock. It was like bold and shocking. And oh my God, she wants to eliminate ICE. This person's nuts. Now, 4 months later, that's like part of their platform. Now they want no country. In 4 months, they've evolved from eliminating ICE to we don't really need a country. We just need an administrative state of which we will decide who gets what. You heard de Blasio last evening. He said, look, there's plenty of money. We just have to take it from the people that have it and give it to us, and we'll decide what to do. Right? He said that in the first 20 minutes. He said there's plenty of money. We just have to take it from those that have it. That's what he said. Yeah. That's Karl Marx.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that was in his campaign launch video, which means it was pre-scripted, and that was not a slip of the tongue. He meant to say that.
Unbelievable.
I'm not sure how many people are too comfortable with the idea of Bill de Blasio making all their decisions for them in their daily lives. I'm not.
Well, he can't even make the subways run on time.
Over to him. So
I'm from New York City. Since he's been there, buses don't run on time. They don't show up. Subways don't run on time. That's a disaster. Can't fix that. Now you have Governor Cuomo the other day saying he's going to put another 5,000 cops in another 5,000 subway transit cops. This is Cuomo, who's still trying to be somewhat reasonable. And you got de Blasio, who backed a district attorney in Queens that wants to eliminate the crime of jumping turnstiles. Well, then you might as well make the subway free. I mean, it's just mind-boggling.
Why have turnstiles? It's an exact analogy to the situation at the border. If you're not going to make it a crime for people to violate something, then why have the impediment there in the first place?
Right.
All these things, all these crazy ideas that we're talking about, John. They stand up on stage and they hear themselves talk, and they're talking to a very small segment of the American people who want to hear these kinds of things. And to them, it all sounds reasonable because they're all in that little bubble. They don't live out in the real world of America, and people go through their daily lives and don't want these things and don't even think about these things. See, that's why we had 2 hours of this last night live on NBC. There'll be 2 more hours live tonight, and they're going to do this once a month from now until it feels like the end of time, right? So all of this, to us, all this free airtime for Americans to see really for the first time exactly how far left and how socialist the Democrat Party and their candidates have become. For all these millions of Americans to see this for the first time, to us, is the best argument for President Trump's reelection that we could ever ask for. And these debates, all taken together, really should be counted as an in-kind contribution to the president's reelection campaign, because we just think it's wonderful. Keep doing it, is what we say.
Tim, you're right. I mean, it's funny, but true. You're absolutely right, Tim.
Tim, they want to throw. Look, they want to throw this Medicare for all, which they some form of it they all proudly embrace. And they were asked, well, which one of you? Let's see a show of hands. Which one of you would actually ban private health insurance? Which means you got a Blue Cross Blue Shield card in your wallet. Tear it up. It's worthless. Who wants to do this? And Elizabeth Warren's hand shot up like she's sitting in the front row in 8th grade. Me. And she's proud of this. So the point of her plan is to throw almost 200 million Americans off the private health insurance that they know and they like into a government-run healthcare system that would eliminate choice and crush Americans with an enormous tax burden to pay for all of that. And on top of it, take 20 million American seniors off of their Medicare Advantage plans, which they know and like, and at the same time give free taxpayer-funded health care coverage to illegal immigrants. So you're taking seniors off their Medicare Advantage, giving insurance to illegal immigrants, and ripping 200 million Americans' private health insurance right out of their wallets. And this is the plan, and this is what she's proud of. And no one blinks an eye.
This
is what they're running on, and it seems normal to them. It's not. This is not normal. This is a government takeover of really the most basic aspects of everyday life for hundreds of millions of Americans. And this has now become an article of faith in the Democrat Party. They're so far out of the mainstream that the more this goes on and the more Americans hear about this, the easier the path to re-election becomes for President Trump. We absolutely believe that.
All right, Tim Murtaugh. Also, Delaney said yesterday, John Delaney from Maryland, who actually is a reasonable guy that owned a business, who got booed off the stage for, I guess, starting a company. Somehow that's now bad now in the Democratic Party to own something. He said last night, look, I talked to 100 hospital CEOs. Every one of them said, if you go to Medicaid for All, which is in your bill, we have to get paid the Medicaid rates. All 100 hospitals I talked to would go out of business. And he said, you guys haven't even thought that through.
Yeah,
and that's going to come back to bite him in the butt.
What does that say to rural America, right? Your big parts of Virginia, say, where the nearest hospital is many miles away and it services lots of surrounding counties, right? What does it say to them? That hospital closes, what are people going to do? Right. That's what Medicare for All is going to lead to. He's exactly right when he says that. But whoever wins this president, let's be honest, John Delaney has no chance, right? He's not going to be the nominee or the president of the United States any day this century. So, but one of the top-tier candidates will likely be the nominee. And if it's Elizabeth Warren, that is going to be the centerpiece of her campaign. Medicare for All, kicking seniors off their Medicare Advantage, 200 million Americans losing their private health insurance, illegal immigrants getting free health care. But here's the thing. Who's going to provide the health care? Because all the hospitals will close. It's insanity.
It is insanity.
It's insanity. But we say keep it up.
Tim Murtaugh, thanks for being with us. Tim, Trump 2020
Thank
Communications
you,
Director. I'm going to try to have you back on tomorrow to get your take on what they said about Joe Biden. We're live in Miami today. Thank you, Tim.